Good morning, gamers! Cooper here again for another TF2 commentary tutorial. Today I'll be making another man vs. machine guide detailing the Scout. I hope you find this informative and that you'll perform better in the future for seeing it. Now the advice I'll be giving you is my own opinion, which is a mix of my gameplay experiences and discussions I've had with other players. The first thing we're going to talk about are the loadouts. The Scout's optimum loadouts are fairly straightforward. For the primary weapon, my top two recommendations are the scattergun and the soda popper. When it comes to the secondary weapon, I think your best option is the Mad Milk. If you don't have the Mad Milk, you could always use the Flying Guillotine, Bonk Atomic Punch, the Winger, or the default pistol. The best melee weapon for the Scout is the Fan of War. Following that, you should probably use the Rap Assassin, the Sandman, or the default Bat. I personally don't like to use the Sandman because it deducts from your health, but if you can manage it and successfully utilize the bonk attacks, more power to you. When I play as the Scout, I use the scattergun, Mad Milk, and the default melee weapon. I use the scattergun because it's one of my favorite weapons in TF2. It has a solid firing rate and good damage output, and it can kill most regular robots without having to reload. The Mad Milk is my secondary weapon, and it's the support tool I use to slow the enemy and assist the team. I do not use the Fan of War or the Rap Assassin because I don't have those items, so I stick to the default melee weapons. Now that you have an idea about the good loadouts, let's talk about class upgrades. When playing as the Scout, character upgrades are important. I think the two most beneficial upgrades are health regeneration and movement speed. Health regen will make the Scout more durable, and the increased movement speed will allow the Scout to outmaneuver his enemies, meaning you don't have to pay for blast or bullet resistance. Most of my money goes towards upgrading my primary weapon. I think the most valuable upgrades are the increased damage, projectile penetration, clip size, and reload speed. I don't think the other upgrades are as useful as those, but you should always playtest to find out what works best for you. The Mad Milk is my secondary weapon, and I purchased the upgrade to slow enemies before the first wave. I wouldn't recommend purchasing any further upgrades though. I would not recommend you spend any money to upgrade your melee weapon unless you're using the Sandman, where having the increased bonk attacks could help slow the robot's advance. Now that we've addressed the Scout's loadouts, let's talk a little bit about strategy. The Scout's enhanced abilities in the MVM manual list his ability to use the Mad Milk to slow enemies and having instant respawn times. The Scout also has a large cash grab radius and receives a small health boost from grabbed cash. These unique abilities help outline the 5 core responsibilities of the Scout. The Scout's 5th and least important responsibility will be killing robots. The scattergun can deal out substantial damage, so make sure you are harassing the enemy as you sprint around. Remember that the Scout can easily kill the bomb carrier. The Scout's 4th responsibility is spotting. In this game you should be playing with a microphone and you should be using it to call out giants, sentry busters, support classes, their whereabouts, and the bomb's location. This is to keep your team informed because communication is very important in MVM. Your 3rd most important responsibility will be to support your allies. While you're running around strafing the horde, your allies will be going toe-to-toe with robots, and using weapons like the Mad Milk and Fan of War will really help them kill the robots and stop the bomb's advance. Your 2nd most important responsibility will be the killing of support robots. Support robots include spies, snipers, and medics, all of which will cause a lot of trouble for your team if left unchecked. The Scout is not the only class that should do this, but their maneuverability and damage output gives them a serious advantage. Now the number 1 responsibility as the Scout, which is paramount to your team's continual success, is collecting cash. The Scout does not belong at the top of a building firing down with the engineer. The Scout is a close quarters fighter. The Scout should always be in the fray even though he has low health. Cash actually provides a health boost to the Scout, so the Scout has more reason to pick it up than anyone else. If you are playing as the Scout and there is a large amount of money being missed between waves, you should be kicked for not doing your job properly. It's acceptable to perhaps miss 1 or 2 cash bundles if you die and aren't able to reach them in time, but that being said, a Scout's maneuverability gives them the option to fight or flee. Simply put, you shouldn't be dying too often. As the scout, you should always be thinking about the money, because that extra $100 bonus after the wave translates to a free upgrade between rounds, entirely thanks to you for doing your job. Now I'll touch on some actual gameplay strategies for when you're playing as the scout. As a scout, you should always watch the drop money meter to see if there's anything you're missing, and if you can't find a bundle, call it to your team because maybe they know where it is. There are locations on the map where money can slip and be hard to find. Some of these locations include the bridges in Decoy, the left-hand path in Big Rock, and the elevated paths at the end of Coal Town. When I play as the scout, I like to use a tactic that I refer to as strafing. The tactic may seem completely obvious, but it needs explaining. Strafing is a combination of three concepts. The first concept is to never stop moving. Always drift around your enemies and use your double jump to get off some extra pop shots. Staying in motion makes you harder to hit, it helps you better harass the robots, and makes it less likely you'll get trapped and killed. The second element of strafing is to stay close to the robots. The scout's arsenal is designed for close combat, which allows you to easily collect money. Use that to your advantage. The third concept of strafing is to maim and retreat. The scout isn't designed for prolonged combat, and after unloading some shots, I recommend grabbing the money, and I like to retreat shooting as I backpedal away. Reload, rinse, and repeat. Strafing allows for optimal money pickup, keeps the scout alive, kills a couple robots, and those that get by have been slightly wounded, so my allies like the soldier and the engineer can quickly finish them off. Try to be aware of your surroundings, and know the locations of nearby health and ammo kits to keep your health and ammo full at all times. Remember that cash will overheal a scout, which means they can actually take a significant amount of damage. Now for some final notes on the scout. I think there should never be more than one scout on a competitive MVM team. Admittingly, the scout is my favorite class to play in MVM. I don't recommend having a scout and a spy on the same team. This also goes for pyros and spies. The scout's ability to draw and dodge enemy fire will cause collateral damage and draw unwanted attention to the spy, more often just killing the spy in proximity. I do think the scout is a primary class. I think the scout's role as a money catcher and striker earns it a permanent seat on my fantasy MVM team. I hope you guys found this guide informative. Please comment about any other tips you might have for the scout, and don't forget to like and share this video with your friends. Happy hunting, and I'll see you guys at Coal Town.